The courtroom was filled with tension. Whispers moved through the crowd like wind slipping through cracks in a locked door. For weeks, the Diddy trial had made non-stop headlines, each more shocking than the last. But today felt different. It wasn't just about legal tactics or surprise witnesses anymore. It was about a name so tightly controlled and carefully managed that hearing it out loud stunned the entire room. Kim Kardashian. The prosecutors didn't make a big scene about it. They didn't have to. They quietly submitted a sealed document into evidence. And when the judge slowly opened it and read the name inside, the reaction was immediate. Eyebrows rose. Pens froze mid-sentence. Even the courtroom sketch artist stopped, stunned, pencil in midair. Over at the defense table, Diddy shifted in. His seat, he had sat still for weeks, calm and untouchable, his face unreadable. But when Kim's name was spoken, something broke in his expression. A small twitch in his jaw. A deep swallow. A quick glance at his lawyer, whose face turned pale under the lights. It wasn't just that Kim's name was mentioned. It was the reason why. According to sources close to the case, prosecutors had uncovered a hidden moment from nearly 10 years ago, backstage at an award show where Diddy performed and Kim had been a presenter. No official complaint was ever made. No public statement ever followed. But what happened that night had been whispered about in the industry like a ghost story passed along by assistants. Denied by PR teams, never confirmed, until now. The sealed file reportedly included a short note from a third-party witness, someone who had worked at that event. Someone who saw Kim leave Diddy's private VIP section, his eyes red, gripping her phone and saying just one thing: "I shouldn't have gone in." It wasn't hard proof, but it was a thread, and prosecutors were ready to pull it. Right away, Diddy's lawyers went on the attack. His lead attorney slammed a motion onto the judge's bench, demanding that Kim Kardashian's name be thrown out, calling it irrelevant, harmful, and not allowed. They argued it was just hearsay, a cheap shot. They said dragging a global celebrity into the case by suggestion would poison the jury's opinion, but the judge didn't flinch. He read through the papers slowly, then looked up. "Her name is in the record," he said, "and the event can reasonably be backed up. The jury has a right to hear it." You could feel the air in the room get colder. Diddy leaned back, jaw tight. His lawyer leaned in and whispered, but Diddy's eyes stayed on the judge. Not defiant anymore, but calculating. It's backstage stories, quiet rumors, faded memories. Usually, they don't hold up in court. This trial wasn't following any rules. It was wild. It was swallowing up everything around it. And now, for the first time, it was closing in on a woman many thought was out of reach. Kim hadn't said anything in public. Not yet. But the fallout had already started, because this wasn't just about name-dropping. It was a warning. Something had happened that night. Now the courtroom was asking, what did she see, and why didn't she talk about it until now? It was the 2016 Iconic Sound Awards, a night glowing with glamour, bright lights, and carefully managed egos. Kim Kardashian walked in with the elegance of royalty. Her dress sparkled like flowing glass. Her smile was flawless for the cameras, but underneath she was drained. It's not from lack of sleep. Kim had perfected looking flawless no matter what. She was tired emotionally. She had just come through a wave of scandals, and the last thing she needed was another rumor, another blurry headline, another story twisted into something she never meant. She hadn't planned to stay long that night, just present an award, pose for a few pictures, then slip out quietly before the crowd got too wild. That was the plan. Until a message arrived. Quiet request. "Mr. Combs would like to see you backstage." She read it twice. At first, she didn't react. Diddy wasn't a stranger. They had met at plenty of events over the years. They had mutual friends, had a shared past, the kind that's normal in Hollywood's elite circles, where everyone knows everyone and secrets spread fast. But something about the timing didn't feel right. Still, Kim gave a polite nod, just a quick hello. She was guided through a quiet hallway, past layers of security guards and publicists wearing headsets. The deeper she went, the quieter it became, like walking into the calm center of a storm. Diddy's private lounge was blocked off with ropes, hidden behind heavy curtains. Only a few people were allowed inside. Stylist, a DJ, one bodyguard, and Diddy himself. He welcomed her with a smile, not big, not fake, but smooth and controlled. "Kim," he said, "I'm glad you came." They made small talk. Praised his performance. He thanked her for presenting. But under the surface, it felt scripted, like he wasn't just hosting a visit, he was setting a stage. Kim had been in enough rooms to recognize when the energy shifts, and here, it shifted quickly. Diddy leaned in closer. His voice got low. "Ever feel like the world watches you so hard you forget what's real?" Kim paused. "Sometimes," she answered. He smiled, but not a warm smile. It was a tight, unsettling one. Then he said something else. "Some of us, we're protected," he told her. "We build walls around us. Silence. Control." Kim didn't reply. She wasn't sure what this was, a deep talk, a confession, a test. Before she could figure it out, someone came into the room. A staff member, out of breath and looking uneasy. "They're asking for Kim. She's needed on stage." She turned, feeling relief. But as she walked toward the door, Diddy said last thing, you're smart to leave now. Not everyone knows when it's time to go." It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a compliment. It was something else, something she couldn't define. And that strange feeling followed her down the hall, into the flashing cameras, and out the back exit. That night, Kim didn't tell anyone what happened. Not her stylist, not her team, not even Kanye. She didn't know how to explain it, because how do you report a feeling? How do you explain something that didn't cross a clear line but still left a mark? So she buried it until now, till her name showed up in court and everything came rushing back. That cold room, that quiet pressure. It's that one line that had lived in her mind for almost 10 years. You're smart to leave now. Now, with the photo coming out, with a third-party witness backing up her reaction, with the whole world watching this trial unfold like a slow crash, Kim had a choice. Stay silent or finally admit that what she felt that night wasn't fear. It was instinct, and that instinct had kept her safe. But now, it might do something even bigger. It might finally bring the truth out into the open. Asterisk, the next morning, Kim woke up to a reality she couldn't control. Her name was everywhere. Kim Kardashian linked to Diddy trial. Backstage moment resurfaces years later. Why didn't she speak up? It didn't matter that she hadn't said anything yet. The world had already decided that her silence was its own kind of noise. The court files were vague and partly blacked out, but the media didn't need the details. All they needed was her name and a whisper of something hidden. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Friends, business partners, her legal team, even her mother, Chris, who had handled countless scandals in high heels, sounded breathless when she called. "You understand how big this is?" Kim didn't answer. She was staring at the photo on her phone, the one the prosecution had apparently received from someone who worked backstage. It had leaked overnight. In the image, Kim was caught mid-turn in a dark hallway. Diddy was just a few steps behind her. His body leaned forward. Kim's arms were wrapped tightly across her chest. Her eyes didn't meet the camera. They were looking down and away. No bright lights, no glitz. Just one raw, unfiltered moment frozen in time. She remembered that exact second. And even now, after all these years, it made her stomach twist. Because it wasn't about what did happen, it was about what almost did. Behind closed doors, her lawyer was already taking action. Damage control, strategy, keeping things quiet. He said, "You're not being accused of anything, but if they decide to subpoena you, you'll have to make a choice. Help. Privately, or speak publicly and steer the story yourself." Neither choice felt right. She stayed quiet, others would speak for her. She spoke, it could change everything. The trial, her life. By lunchtime, Diddy's legal team hit back hard. They gave a statement to the press, bringing unrelated celebrities into. This trial is reckless and harmful. Mr. Combs does not recall any such backstage encounter. Any claims suggesting otherwise are false and driven by media chaos. It was fast. It was cold. It was meant to shut things down. But the cracks were starting to show. Inside the courtroom, Diddy was restless. He whispered urgently to his lawyers. checked his phone over and over. He had always controlled the story in music and business, in his image, but this time was different. Because Kim wasn't just any celebrity, she was a symbol. Someone who had mastered the art of controlling her own story. And now she was losing that control. So what did that mean for everyone else? The prosecutors saw their moment. They didn't point fingers. They didn't put on a show. They just let the story breathe, let the photos spread, let the jury quietly wonder why someone as powerful and polished as Kim Kardashian looked so out of place in that hallway. And why Diddy, who had denied so much already, was once again tied to something that felt too familiar, too quiet, too haunting. By that night, social media had exploded. Old videos came back, red carpet clips, paparazzi footage showing Kim clearly uncomfortable near Diddy at past events. Pieces of a puzzle no one had tried to solve until now. Though Kim still hadn't broken her silence, she was thinking about it, because this wasn't the kind of headline you could ignore. This wasn't a rumor to brush off. This was a mirror. And in that mirror, she saw a version of herself she had locked away. Not because she was scared, but because she'd been taught that some rooms weren't meant to be entered. But maybe this courtroom was, and maybe this time she wouldn't. Walk out quietly. Court was already underway when Diddy's lead attorney made his move. He stood from the defense table with a confidence that felt more forced than real. His voice sliced through the silence, clear, formal, carefully rehearsed. Your Honor, the defense requests a motion to block any and all references to Miss Kimberly Kardashian during this trial. She is not a listed witness. She hasn't accused my client of any wrongdoing. The prosecution is using her name to sway public opinion and prejudice the jury. There it was, their legal attempt to shut the door before it could fully open. The judge looked over his glasses, quiet and unreadable. The room fell silent. The prosecution stood up slowly. No dramatics. They calmly placed a thick file on the table in front of them. Your Honor, the lead prosecutor said this isn't a publicity stunt. Her name came up because her encounter fits into a pattern we are establishing. Well, Miss Kardashian hasn't claimed a crime was committed. Her experience with the defendant clearly shows a repeated behavior that the jury needs to hear. The judge leaned back in his chair. Is she planning to testify? He asked. The prosecution hesitated, then gave a measured reply. We haven't issued a subpoena yet, but she has submitted a signed, sealed statement. We also have backup from a third-party witness. That changed everything. Until now, Kim Kardashian's name had just floated around the trial. Powerful, but unclear. But a sealed statement? That meant she had spoken, on record, under legal advice? And the jury wasn't going to forget that. Diddy's lawyer got more aggressive. This is a trial built on implication, he argued. This is a hit job on someone's reputation through guilt by association. If every woman who's ever been in the same room with my client is now relevant, this isn't a courtroom, it's a circus. But the prosecutor pushed back harder. Then why did your client try so hard to keep her name out of it? Silence, thick and uncomfortable. The judge tapped his gavel once, not to quiet anyone, but to calm the room. I'm allowing the statement to stay in the record, he said slowly. The jury will decide how much it matters. This court will not erase a verified moment. Just because it's inconvenient, Diddy didn't move. He stared ahead, lips tight, his hand gripping the arm of his chair so hard you could see the tension in his knuckles. Behind him, his legal team looked shaken. For the first time, they weren't in control of the story. They were reacting, not leading. Outside the courthouse, chaos broke out. Paparazzi packed the sidewalks. News anchors scrambled to update. Their scripts, online hashtags exploded. Hashtag Kim testified, hashtag Diddy files, hashtag Backstage truth. But inside the courtroom, it wasn't just the jury paying attention now. The whole room was locked in. Kim's statement hadn't been read yet, but just knowing it existed carried weight. It proved she hadn't forgotten. It showed that her silence wasn't because she didn't remember it, was because she had been careful. And now, that caution had become part of the official record. Later that day, a witness took the stand. The same Backstage photographer who had come forward anonymously just days earlier. He looked nervous, holding a manila folder like it was his lifeline. When asked if he remembered the night Kim left Diddy's lounge, he nodded. She looked upset, he said quietly. I was told not to take any pictures, but I already had one. I didn't delete it, the prosecutor asked. What happened next? I was approached by a man. I don't know his name. He said, you didn't see anything. You don't want to lose your job. Just one sentence, and the entire courtroom shifted. Jurors leaned forward. One folded his arms tightly, locked in. Why didn't you speak up sooner? The prosecutor asked. The photographer's hand shook slightly, because I didn't think anyone would believe me. Not until now. There it was. A timeline, a moment captured, witness tying Kim's memory to a real, visible event. And as court ended for the day, Diddy stayed seated longer than usual. He said nothing, didn't look at his lawyers, because no matter how hard his team tried to keep Kim out of that courtroom, she was already there. And her presence, even in silence, was shaking the ground under him. The next morning, before the courthouse doors even opened, whispers were already spreading. It's not from reporters or camera crews, but from inside. Clerks' aides even. Junior lawyers standing near the metal detectors checked their phones like they were waiting for something huge. A document had leaked. Not the whole thing, just a few lines. A screenshot of what looked like Kim Kardashian's signed statement submitted under seal just 48 hours before. The lines weren't explosive. They didn't have to be. I entered Mr. Combs's backstage suite alone. I wasn't told who else would be there. After a few minutes of conversation, I felt deeply uncomfortable and chose to leave. I've never talked publicly about this moment, but I remember the feeling clearly. I knew I had to go. No direct accusations, no details, just that one word, uncomfortable. And in the court of public opinion, that word was all it took to make waves. By 9 a.m., I had to go was trending around the world. Inside the courtroom, the tension was unbearable.
Ow.
Diddy showed up 15 minutes late for the first time in the trial. His suit was still perfect, but his face wasn't. The sharp part in his hair had faded into messy exhaustion. Dark circles sat under his eyes, his cheekbones looked sunken. When he sat down, he didn't look at the prosecutors. He didn't look at the judge. He looked straight at the jury like a man silently pleading to be seen as something more than what the world now believed. The judge brought the room to order. But before moving forward, he addressed what everyone already knew. I'm aware, he said firmly, that part of a sealed document has been leaked to the press. Let me be absolutely clear. This court will not allow further breaches of confidentiality. If this happens again, I will start holding people in contempt. No one said a word. But everyone in the room knew the damage had been done. The jury had already seen the news. The public had already formed its opinion. And now, Diddy's legal team had to fight two battles, one in court and one online. The prosecution didn't push too hard that day. They simply confirmed the statement was real and entered it into the official record. They didn't call Kim to the stand, not yet. They didn't have to. The leak had already done more than a live witness ever could. Because it wasn't about what Kim said. It was about what she remembered. The fact that she remembered it nearly 10 years later gave it power. Diddy's lawyers tried to recover. They clung to technical arguments, chain of custody, emotional influence, relevance. But the courtroom wasn't listening the same way anymore. Everyone had seen the photo. They'd heard from the photographer. Now they had her words. Plain, steady, honest. Diddy's team knew what was coming. They asked for a closed-door meeting. With the judge, off-the-record rumors flew. Some said they were trying to stop Kim from being forced to testify live. Others whispered they were negotiating, asking for limited testimony. Carefully scripted, carefully timed, carefully controlled. But it didn't matter anymore, because they had already lost control. Later that day, court ended early due to a scheduling conflict. And as Kim left her office building in Los Angeles, a reporter spotted her. She didn't speak. She didn't pose. She walked straight to her black SUV, flanked by private security. But just before the door closed, one camera caught her face. She looked back. No smile, no fear. Just a calm, quiet determination, And that one look, soft, honest, real, told the world exactly what it needed to hear. She wasn't going to stay silent anymore, not to hurt Diddy, not to chase attention, but because the silence had lasted long enough, and when even the most famous woman in the world decides it's time to speak, people listen. The courtroom was quiet, not the calm kind, but the kind that felt like a wire pulled too tight. Everyone in the room could sense what was coming, even if no one dared say it out loud. Kim Kardashian was about to speak. Not in person, not yet. But the court had just approved her pre-recorded video statement. It was filmed under oath, cleared by her legal team, and officially verified. The jury was going to see it all. Edits. No cuts. Just her words. Her truth. The lights dimmed a little as the monitor lit up, and there she was. Kim sat in a plain room, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. This wasn't red carpet Kim. This was raw, serious, intentional. Every word chosen not to shock, but to be real. I've thought about that night for a long time. She began, her voice steady. I never wanted to make it into something bigger than it was. But I also couldn't lie to myself about what it meant. She paused, not for drama, but because she was remembering. I went into that room because someone said he wanted to say hi. We'd met before at events, nothing strange. But that night felt different. Not right away, not on the surface, but in the way people moved. The way the room felt smaller, quieter, controlled. The courtroom didn't move. Even Diddy, who had rolled his eyes at past witnesses, now stared ahead, still and silent. He didn't touch me, Kim continued. He didn't threaten me, but he didn't have to. You can tell when someone's not just talking to you, they're watching you, testing you. Another pause. I remember thinking, why is there only one exit? Why does it feel like I'm being watched from every part of the room? A whisper rippled through the gallery. The judge didn't say a word. We didn't need to. The room corrected itself. I made an excuse, Kim said, her voice trembling slightly. I said I had to call my kids. That I forgot something in my dressing room. I smiled, the kind of smile women use when they're trying to leave without. Causing a scene, I walked out, and I didn't look back. She pressed her lips together. I didn't tell anyone that night. Not my mom, not my team, not even Kanye. Because I thought, what do I even say? That a man made me feel uncomfortable in a room full of people. That's not a headline, that's survival. You could feel the room inhale, a breath held. By everyone at once. I'm not here to accuse anyone, she said. I'm here to be honest. What I saw, what I felt, what I knew deep inside that night. I've never forgotten it. And now that I've been asked to remember, I won't pretend it didn't happen. The screen went black. No music, no fade out. Just silence, thick and still. The judge cleared his throat but didn't speak. The prosecution didn't need to say anything else. The defense looked shaken. Diddy's lawyer didn't jump up with objections this time. He didn't offer a rebuttal. He just scribbled something on a legal pad and kept scribbling, as if he was trying to erase what the jury had just seen. But it was too late. What Kim had just said wasn't a bombshell. It was something deeper. It was the crack in the wall. And once a wall cracks, it doesn't matter how strong it once was. Everything starts to crumble. The impact of Kim's video didn't stop inside the courtroom. It echoed everywhere. News outlets played the footage nonstop. They analyzed every word, every pause, every slight shake in her voice. Body language experts appeared on talk shows, breaking down her eye contact and tone. Advocates for victims called it one of the most powerful statements ever made by someone in her position. Diddy's team. Silent. And that silence only made the noise louder. Back in court, the prosecution didn't need to say much. They let Kim's words carry the weight. The jury had just seen one of the most famous women in the world admit, on record, that something was wrong and that she had been afraid to speak. That kind of honesty doesn't fade, it lingers. The next witness took the stand, a former publicist who had worked multiple events with Diddy over the years. She didn't mention Kim's name. She didn't have to. Her testimony painted the same picture. There was always a second layer to the parties, she said. People were smiling, having fun, but there were places you didn't go. Rooms you weren't allowed into unless you were personally invited. Those rooms weren't about music. She stopped. swallowed hard. Kim wasn't the only person who went into a room like that and came out changed. The defense objected. Hearsay. Not firsthand, not relevant. But the prosecution was ready. They submitted guest lists, internal messages, between assistants and event rosters. Messages that referenced VIP clearance zones and no photo areas, the exact kind of spaces Kim had described. Behind the defense table, Diddy leaned forward, elbows on the table, fingers pressed, together against his lips. For the first time, he didn't look like a man defending himself. He looked like someone bracing for collapse, and the jury noticed it. Not just in him, but in everything unraveling around him. Because this wasn't just about one night, one room, one celebrity. It had become about something much bigger. Pattern, a system, a culture built on silence and power, and the belief that no one would ever speak. But Kim did, and her decision shattered that belief wide open. That night, a major entertainment blog posted a side-by-side photo. On the left, Kim, on the 2016 red carpet, glowing, unbothered. On the right, the courtroom video, stripped down, trembling, telling her truth. The headline read, "The Face of Hollywood, Then and Now." It went viral within an hour. Celebrities began liking the post. Some shared it to their stories with one word, respect. But the one that hit the internet hardest? Kylie Jenner. She shared it at midnight. No caption, no emoji. No, just the post. And that set the internet on fire. Was Kylie there too? Had she heard the story? Had she known what Kim had been carrying all these years? Suddenly, the circle wasn't closing in on Kim. It was closing in on Diddy. Because every quiet show of support, every subtle post, wasn't just for Kim. It was a silent rejection of everything that had stayed hidden for too long. And as the trial moved forward, it didn't feel like Diddy was just fighting a legal battle anymore. He was facing something bigger, a reckoning. One person, one memory, one truth at a time. And now that Kim's story was out there, the walls weren't just shaking, they were starting to fall. It happened just after the lunch break. The kind of shift you don't notice at first, not with noise, not with drama, but with absence. Diddy didn't come back at first. Court staff thought he was running late. Traffic maybe, quick strategy meeting with his lawyers, the usual. Excuses. But as the judge returned to the bench and Diddy's seat stayed empty, the whispers began. His lead attorney stood up, straightened his tie, but his face was pale. "Your Honor," he said carefully, "Mr. Combs has chosen not to return for this afternoon's session. He is invoking his right not to be present." A wave of murmurs swept through the gallery, low and thunderous. The judge nodded and made a note. But the air in the room had already changed. It was fear. For days now, Diddy had watched things fall apart. Kim's name entering the courtroom, her video testimony shaking the world. His legal team struggling to keep up, but not showing up. It sent a different message. It made people wonder. Was the man who always walked into a room like he owned it finally realizing the room didn't belong to him anymore? The prosecution wasted no time. They introduced a chain of internal emails from former employees. Redacted, yes, but still damaging. Subject lines like VIP zone protocol and special. Guest shielding appeared on screen. Emails matched up with party dates including the night. Kim was backstage. One message from a former assistant read, "Make sure Alistairs sign in with phones. Limit hallway access after 9:30. Mr. C doesn't want uninvited eyes." The courtroom was silent. The jury read every word. No cross-examination, no response. Because Diddy wasn't there to challenge it. Outside, the media stormed forward. Online, speculation exploded. Was Diddy hiding from something worse? He'd come back? But inside the courtroom, things stayed focused. The next witness was called a former production coordinator from that same 2016 award show. She had never come forward before. Fear, contracts, loyalty, all the reasons people stay quiet. But now, after Kim's statement, after seeing that, leaked photos everywhere, she couldn't stay silent. She stepped onto the witness stand. Her voice shook a little, but her words were clear. "I didn't see what happened in the room," she said. "But I saw her come out, Kim. I was walking by when she pulled the curtain back. She looked confused, like she wasn't fully there, like she was walking through water. The prosecutor asked, "What happened next?" She turned to one of the event managers and said, "What's the fastest way out?" She didn't want to go through the red carpet again. She asked for the side exit. Did she say anything else? The coordinator nodded slowly. She said, "I shouldn't have gone in there." Then she put on sunglasses and left. Simple, quiet, unforgettable. Because that was the second time those exact words had been said. During the trial, I shouldn't have gone in. The jury didn't need drama. They didn't need a big emotional scene. They needed consistency. They needed memory. And now, a second person had confirmed it. Kim's statement was no longer a maybe. It had become a fact. A truth. One Diddy clearly had no interest in facing, not now. And maybe not ever. As court adjourned for the day, no one rushed to pack up. Porters lingered. Jurors glanced at each other. Even the judge stayed seated a little longer, because it was obvious now. Diddy wasn't just losing control of the story. He was losing control of everything. His defense, his support, his legacy. And the most unsettling part, the trial wasn't. Even over yet the morning after Diddy's no-show, the courthouse looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. The press barricades were still up. Camera flashes still went off every time an SUV pulled up. Court sketch artists still held their pads with white knuckles. But now, there was something different in the air. A shared understanding. A shift. Everyone from the media to the jury finally seemed to see what the prosecution had known. All along, this wasn't just about one incident. This was about a system Diddy had helped create and protect. And now, that system was falling apart. Inside, the judge addressed the obvious. "Mr. Combs remains within his rights not to appear," he said firmly. "But let the record show, his absence will not delay this trial." The prosecution stood. Immediately, they were ready. What they showed next wasn't testimony. It wasn't a letter. It was records. Years of them. Security logs from award shows, industry parties, charity galas covering more than a decade. And there was one thing they all had in common. Diddy's private areas, always sectioned off. Always controlled by his own hand-picked team. Always. Off limits to outside security. And in every case, guest sign-in logs were missing or never created. The jury sat motionless, its eyes locked on the screen. But the moment that really changed the room, a digital 3D reconstruction appeared. It was the Backstage layout from the 2016 Iconic Sound Awards. It showed the green rooms, makeup trailers, the main hallway, and highlighted in bold red Diddy's private VIP suite. One way in. One way out? No cameras, no third-party staff, only his own people. And according to that reconstruction, the moment Kim walked out of that room, there were no more log entries for the rest of the night. The courtroom saw it. The jury saw it. And somewhere, it's probably watching from a safe distance, Kim saw it too. Then the prosecution turned to the jury and said, "We're not here to tell you what happened inside that room. We're not here to shape your opinion. We're here to show you what she entered, what she left behind, and what she carried in silence for 8 years." That silence now screamed louder than anything else in the courtroom. Later that day, social media exploded again, not because of leaks, but because of a new voice. An A-list actress, former music video icon. Early 2000s legend, she posted just one sentence to her Instagram story. That hallway. That same hallway? I never said a word either. No photo. No explanation, and yet everyone knew. Another voice, another memory, another moment that refused to stay buried. The internet called it the quiet reckoning. One by one, women in the industry started posting. No names, just cryptic messages. But all unmistakably connected. For years, Diddy had built a reputation, charming, powerful, generous. But now, that image was crumbling. It's not under accusations, but under memories that had never been allowed to surface. Inside the courtroom, the pressure was suffocating. Even the defense looked tired. Their cross-examinations had lost energy. Their objections slowed down. They weren't defending a person anymore. They were trying to manage a legacy. and that legacy was burning. Outside, whispers started. Sealed indictments. Federal investigations reopening. Old employees getting surprise phone calls from lawyers they hadn't heard from in years. Because this wasn't just about proving guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. This was about exposure. Kim never had to return to court. She didn't need to. Her words lingered long after the screen went dark, and outside the building, signs began to appear. Do we believe her? Silence is over. More will speak. This trial wasn't about just one man anymore. It was about the hidden rooms we pretend not to see. The parties we glamorize without asking questions. It's the voices that go quiet, not because they forget, but because they remember too well. And now, one by one, they're choosing to speak. It was the last day in court. No one said it, but everyone felt it. The tension had changed. It wasn't sharp or chaotic anymore. It was slow, heavy, like the last note of a song that had gone on. Too long? Diddy didn't show up. No press release. No statement from his lawyers. No explanation. Just an empty chair at the defense table. Folded note left where his hands used to rest. In an atmosphere that screamed he wasn't coming back, and maybe knew better than to face what was about to happen. Because today wasn't about loopholes or legal tricks or timelines. Today was about impact, perspective, truth. The prosecution made an unusual move to close the case. They brought in a personal statement, not from a victim, but from someone who had lived inside the system. A former assistant. She had worked at one of Diddy's partner companies back in 2015. She had never been in the spotlight. Never. Accused, just another quiet face in the background. Until now, she took the stand slowly. Not dramatic, not scared. Just ready. I'm not here because I was hurt the way others were, she began. I'm here because I saw what happened to people who tried to speak up. To women who said no. To employees who asked the wrong questions. She looked around the courtroom directly. .com. I was 24 when I started. Within 2 weeks, I learned the rules. You didn't ask who was in the private meetings. You didn't look certain guests in the eye. You didn't speak unless spoken to. You never brought your phone into a room if Diddy was in it, unless he said you could. Soft gasps rippled across the room. She kept going. I saw celebrities leave those rooms crying. I saw girls who were asked to go home and their names never showed up on guest lists again. We all knew what was happening, but we told ourselves, that's just how this business works. She stopped for a moment, then continued. Then Kim's name came up. I remembered that night. I remembered seeing her come out of that lounge. She had sunglasses on at night. She didn't speak to anyone. She didn't ask for help. But the way she walked, stiff, fast, like she wanted to run out of her own skin, I'll never forget it. No one moved. Not the jury. Not the judge. Not the media. She took a breath. I quit a year later. I couldn't carry it anymore, and I stayed silent. But after watching this trial, I understand something now. Silence is a form of participation, and I won't participate anymore. When she stepped down, no one said a word. No objections, no cross-examination, because there was nothing left to argue. The jury started their deliberations. Hours passed. Then word came, no verdict tonight. Too much to consider. Too many layers. But in a way, it didn't matter. Because something had already been decided, not by law, but by truth. Diddy's name, once a symbol of untouchable power, had been peeled back, layer by layer. What was left behind wasn't just legal exposure. It was moral exposure. Kim never came back to the courthouse. She didn't need to. Her words still echoed long after the video ended. Outside, the signs kept growing. Believe her. Silence is over. More will speak. This trial was never just about one man. It was about the hidden places we pretend not to notice. The parties we glorify without question. People who go quiet, not because they forget, but because they remember too clearly. And now, one by one, they are choosing to speak.